Tuesday, November 13th, 2019, 10 a.m. is now in session. Let the record reflect that there was no executive session, therefore no need for ratification. Roll call.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Here. We do have a quorum, and we will proceed with that. We'll have our pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Underwater is dead, you know, so we would have to reseed those fairways. There's 3 of them, which the nice thing about that is it's not bent grass, which is on your greens, it's bluegrass. It's a lot less cost, you know, to reseed those. Just, you know, it just depends on what direction they want to take the golf course in.
Are we?
Okay, so let's do this with board approval. Let's do a relaunch of Gleason. We need to do something big. So let's get some things on paper.
Why don't we,
With board approval.
Let's table that part
Okay.
and add to like new business.
Oh, sure.
As an
And
idea.
Sure.
As Nate had brought up in a meeting that we had, you know, one of the things about South Gleason that, for me, as in some of my prior dealings in other golf courses and that, we have a casino boat coming in and things like that. There's a lot of positives to that area right there. And as Nate brought up, you know, Hudson Camel got their shot in the arm, Marquette got their shot in the arm, you know, Gleason hasn't had that yet. And so, you know, with that type of help, it would, you know, I mean, Gleason's a nice golf course, can be a nice golf course. There's just no reason for it not to be. And it just needs a little shot in the arm.
Okay, how are we proceeding on preparation for that reseeding in the spring? We don't presently have.
What I can do is get the cost involved in
Yes,
reseeding that.
yes, let's do that. That's really what I'm asking.
Mhm.
That we would get the cost for the seeding, find out, you know, and move forward from there. It may or may not be out of our hands, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Until we hear otherwise, I just would prefer to move as if the course is gonna be open for 2020.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion that we would approve the contract for services with Don for the 2020 year. And then, what is it, not to exceed?
$50,000.
$50,000.
So moved.
Roll call.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson? Commissioner Patterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
And finally, we have a professional service contract for South Gleason Golf Course Clubhouse concierge contract for Renzo Williams. And he's actually exercising his option, which takes him through December 31st, 2022. So basically, the terms remain the same. And asking the board to approve that as well. The rent is $500 per month. And he also pays the park department $25 for each event outside of what he does. And he's also responsible for paying the liquor license as well, and the renewal fee.
And he did those things in 2019,
He did.
and he's up to date with his payments.
Yes.
Was there a record of many events outside of the, actually that he did that were
Yeah,
$25 and over?
He's supposed to provide a calendar to Don that shows all of his events. It's been a little bit of a challenge recently because he's had some turnover as it relates to the person who does the scheduling. So we've had to be a little bit more proactive in asking for it because we just aren't used to. We're not getting it the way we're used to.
Any questions from board members? Then I'll entertain a motion that we would approve the contract for the concierge at South Gleason Golf Course Clubhouse. So moved. Roll call?
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes.
That's it.
Administrative reports.
Okay, Commissioner.
Yeah, we need to, before you do that, we discussed it, but we didn't approve the holiday decorations. So I'll entertain a motion that we would approve the contract for the holiday decorations at Marquette Park.
So moved.
Roll call?
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner,
Yes. Okay, administrative reports.
Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This summer, I believe that the Miller Citizens Corporation broke a record for volunteer hours. As of Monday, November the 11th, they collectively have a total of 7,233.25 hours, which is 2,000 more than the summer of 2018, which is very impressive. There was a lot of things we did not have to do because they were out there getting them done, and we really, really appreciate that. And with that being said, the MPP is asking the board to waive the fee for their prom, which is scheduled for Saturday, February the 8th, 2020. The fee that'll be waived, what that we're asking to be waived, is the cost for the ballroom. So it's $2,280. And this is, again, in return for the voluntary hours that they put in at the beach.
Okay, questions, comments, concerns from board members?
I used to hear the term that facts change is not robbery. You know what that means?
I think so.
Interpret it for me.
Have we waived their fee before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And their work is evident.
Yes.
It's fair exchange.
Fair exchange.
Then I will entertain a motion that we would waive the fee for the Miller Citizens Corporation's yearly prom
So moved.
Second.
in the amount of $2,280. Roll call?
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson.
Yes.
And President Gardner.
Yes.
For the first time ever, Monday, December 23rd, Marquette will be hosting a 23-on-23 shoe vendor show. There will be a variety of shoe vendors, music, and entertainment for the entire family. I did attach a flyer, but this is something that we're trying to think outside of the box, of course, and bring something new to the community. Everybody loves shoes, so we figured that we can hit each and every person and bring them out to the shoe vendor show. So if you know someone that has a lot of shoes and they're looking to sell them, or if you're looking to trade some shoes, or if you know someone that designs shoes, give us a call in our office, 219-938-7362, and be a part of the 23-on-23. And that's all that I have.
Any questions from board members?
Yeah, I want to put a disclaimer in when I say this. You know, we're in the radio business, and that a lot of the events and a lot of things that you do, and I see people have flyers printed and they pass them out, but that doesn't have the impact of going directly to the audience, right? I would suggest that you take a look, and the board take a look, and enter it into a contract with the radio station to keep up with some of the things you do, because there's another radio station that's coming on board in 30 days. And a lot of the things that you do need that kind of impact in order to cover people from the Chicago line all the way to the Michigan line. And I think you should look into it.
Okay, let's unpack that for a minute. Does the city itself have a contract with our local radio station in terms of advertising?
They don't.
Okay.
They should. They need to.
Okay. Do we have a minimum amount of advertising publicity dollars anywhere in our budget.
Very, very minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, very minimal in almost all of them. But I mean, I get your point. It's something that's needed for almost all of our departments. But
Yes.
Our budget allocation is just a very minimal.
Here's
to
what-
make
here's
it-
So
what-
let's do this. Let's do
Go
this.
ahead.
Let's do this. If we could procure some level of basic proposal for some limited level of announcements, advertising, because it could include Marquette Golf Course,
Right.
Hudson Campbell. I think that would be money well spent. And so we have limited resources, but if we've got a community partner who's kind of willing to meet us in the middle somewhere, we ought to be able to make something happen.
Okay. You want me to throw a little ballpark figure out there?
Not right now.
Fair exchange.
Right.
Fair exchange.
We'll get to that. So let's, all right, and if radio station would actually, after some conversation about what we think would work, give us a written proposal.
All right.
Okay.
I had another question, and that is, it's in regard to a topic that probably is going to need to do some study on, but it's in regard to beach erosion. I noticed that we're losing a lot of our beachland, shoreline now, and I was wondering if there was anything in place to either dredge it or just what the future holds for Marquette.
Yeah, right now, well, even as far as the beach ceremonies are concerned, right now I can't even book a beach ceremony because the shoreline is pretty much gone. We did have one beach ceremony scheduled for this summer, but we had to move it because there was no sand for us to set up the chairs for the
Yeah,
the actual ceremony.
Great Lakes water levels are as high as they've ever been.
Yeah.
And that doesn't perceive to be changed in the foreseeable future. Without a break wall, there's no way to protect the beach. And so what we have is what we have.
And I had a conversation with Paul Leibovitz with National Parks. This is a while, maybe sometime last year, to ask them how they were handling it. Because as you probably know, Ogden Dunes is just about lost their entire shoreline. And he forwarded me some information that I've looked at, and it shows that there are trends as it relates to the lake where you have years where the water levels are high, and then you have a decade of where it's relatively low. Somebody pointed out to me that they remember maybe in the 80s going maybe 100, almost 100 feet walking out into the beach and water being calf deep. And we know just that's not the trend right now. The one thing we don't know is the effects that climate change is going to have. Now we've got a whole new set of rules that we're playing by. So yeah, we've asked and see if there's anything they can do, and unfortunately, we're just kind of beholden to whatever Mother Nature decides.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right, Hudson Campbell. Work is scheduled to begin on the final stages for the canopy up front. They are anticipating that to take another couple of weeks. We're waiting on the electric heaters that will be installed in the front vestibule area. So for those of you who walk through the front, it's really cold out there, so those will have an impact and hopefully significantly increase the amount of heat in that area. There still is a little additional work that we're waiting on them to do, but they're relatively done with the front vestibule area. As it relates to the painting, the power washing and painting of the facility, we're out of time. And so I believe there's a contract going before the Board of Works Today, via community development, they've selected a vendor. They're entered into the contract so we can lock everything in, and then as soon as the weather permits, we hit the ground running next year. And so we met with that vendor last week, and a representative, I believe he's from Sherwin-Williams. In the meantime, what they're going to do is provide us some mock-ups. So they're going to give me some color samples to kind of look through. We pick out a few. They're going to give me some mock-ups of what the building will look like after it's power washed and painted, and then I'll be sharing that information with you all, hopefully at the next meeting.
Okay. What about the whole idea of a relaunch? How do you see a soft one over the winter months?
Yeah.
Another one in the spring?
We targeted December the 20th.
Okay.
To do that. And we'll primarily focus on the inside with we should have the mock-ups by that time so that folks can see what the outside will look like next year. But there's a lot for us to be proud of the work that's being done inside. And so we definitely, right before the holidays, right before people start making their New Year's resolutions about how they're going to attack their fitness goals, we definitely want to make sure we introduce the facility back to the community and people around the community.
Okay, great. We've already heard from Don and the golf course. Aquatics?
Oh, very short today. We're finished with the winterization. Everything is cleared up. So now we're just making our maintenance list to try to see how we could jumpstart for next year. That's it.
Any questions?
You got all your pumps labeled?
Huh?
You have all your pumps labeled?
Yes. Well, since we only have 2 pools,
Yeah.
we have a big pool, we have Tolliston and Roosevelt. So it's the bigger motor and bigger pump and the smaller. So
How's that training program coming to you?
which training?
Well, you were talking about you teaching the kids to train. Did you say you were doing something at West Side?
Well, yeah. So they have a swim team.
Right.
So yeah, now we're working on. Well, they're learning getting the swimming product down pat first.
Where do they swim?
They practice at the Y. That's the only pool that we have available. They waited too late. I tried to get them to go out to Calumet, but their pool was already rented out to Bishop Nolan. So right now, they're just practicing at the Y for the swim team. That's the only pool that we had available. They're bringing back up talks again on working on getting their pool up. I just keep trying to
Yeah,
push getting West Side pool up. Just gotta keep pushing and get more people in the community to see how important it is to have their pool up. This is what they realized. We only have 1 pool in the area, and that's the why. So if something was to ever happen with that pool, then we wouldn't have any indoor pools to practice.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Youth Services Bureau, just wanted to report on some of the after-school programming. We were on a conference call yesterday with the Cities Connected Children in Nature, and one of the things that Lori brought up is that, so we have the 3 after-school programs, one here, one at Christ United Methodist in Glen Park, and another at the Paul Douglas Center. We all kind of assumed, because this was more sports oriented, that this would be the heavily populated one, and that's not the case. It's actually the one at the Douglas Center, which is more nature, outdoor focused. But that's a good thing. Like we're fine with that. The kids are okay with going outdoors. It's turned out to be a really good partnership. The folks at the Douglas Center are ecstatic about it, and it's working out really well so far. So we're really excited about the direction that one is going. Still trying to work to get the numbers up. They had an ice cream social here at the Hudson Campbell last week to invite parents and kids out, enjoy some ice cream, to talk a little bit about the programming here. So we still have slots available. 881-5270 is the number if you want to call and register. I child or children for our after-school program.
Superintendent's report.
All right. Wanted to thank the Student Conservation Association. They went to Glen Ryan Saturday and planted trees around the neighborhood. More importantly, one of the things that's always good is to make sure that you had community engagement. And while they were out there, they were able to collaborate with some of the neighbors and have some dialogue with them. So I haven't been out there to take a look at it, but it's my understanding that that one went very well. And so we're appreciative of the SCA and their dedication to making sure that we have trees and proper trees in our parks. Tolleson Pavilion, we've had to shut down everything that's going on at Tolleson Pavilion. When we first tried to go around all our pavilions to make sure that the heat was working on, we noticed Tolleson wasn't working. Internally, we tried to activate it. It didn't work. We then discovered that there was no gas coming into the building itself. We then discovered after some conversation with NIPSCO that because they were doing some work in the area that they had shut off the gas at some point. I'm thinking some point in the summertime, late summer. It has not been cut on yet. We are politely harassing them in order to make sure that it gets cut on, because one of the things that we don't want is for the pipes to freeze, and then we have a bigger issue. So for now, we've had to halt any programming or any rentals that people want to have at the facility. DNR compliance. I hope to maybe prior to the end of the year or the beginning of next year, I hope to have some good news. We've had some really good traction on us getting back in compliance with DNR. As you all probably aware, there was we had to satisfy, I think it was about $820,000 of land replacement because of the development of MC Bennett Park, which is now County Market. We have about $58,000 that we needed to satisfy in land swap. Had a very promising meeting with someone last week with the mayor. I think we're going to be able to get this done, and I hope to have an update for you all by the next meeting to ensure that we're able to do that. Also, we have a good dialogue going with the U.S. Department of Forestry to assist with the removal of dead trees around a lot of our parks. Mm-hmm. Mostly the trees that have been decimated by the ash beetle, and are now a public nuisance, or could be a public nuisance. They're next to a walkway, sidewalk. They could overturn and be, it could be detrimental to somebody in the community. And so we've had some communication. We're just about complete with the agreement for that. There's some in-kind donations that we have to provide in order to satisfy that, but it looks like we're going to be able to do it. A lot of the trees happen to be at Gleason. If you're going down 35th Avenue more so towards the east end, they're right up against the fence. And so if any of them fall, it could be very dangerous to the community. So we've already gone out, we've done the assessments, we've identified the trees. Now it's just a matter of tying everything in a bow and getting the agreement in place, and then hopefully early next spring we'll get started on the trees the last thing, and I apologize, I didn't bring it with me. There was a complaint from someone who rented out Reed Park. It was for a repast. It was 2 weeks ago. There was a problem with the plumbing there. The sink had clogged up, and we got someone out there to service it, but they were already there. They had set up, and it would have not been good to have them ride it out while they were already there cooking and all this other kind of stuff. So the lady who rented it out came, expressed that to me. She doesn't want a refund. She just wants to know if we would allow her to have another event there at no additional cost to her. The only thing she would have to do is pay for security because we can't refund that because we paid that out to Davis Day Security. But she's asked permission if she can have an event. It was the Saturday after Thanksgiving is the day that she picked out. And it was pretty bad. The clogging of it was pretty bad. And so I'm in favor of it. And we just need board approval if it's okay with you.
Comments from board members? Okay. I think the necessity of being a good community partner, that kind of makes sense. So I'll entertain a motion that we would approve the request for the use of Reed Park on a Saturday after Thanksgiving.
And it's
So
no-
moved. 11:30.
That's, yes, November 30th.
Without charge. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Roll call?
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Patterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
Gardner.
Let me ask you a question though. How are we handling, I mean, I know we're still doing the shared services. Is that how we're handling pavilion maintenance?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. Since the last meeting, I gave a list. If you all remember at the last meeting, we talked about, kind of summarizing where each of our heavily used pavilions are, what the problems are, what the needs are, and then just talking with the administration about resolving or coming up with the resources to do that. We've had some really good dialogue over the last couple of weeks. I've got numbers, I've got figures, and if it would be okay with the board, I'd like to discuss that at our next board meeting in executive session to provide you all of that information. And then somebody from the administration will also be here to talk about how we're going to address it.
Great. And what we've been talking about is the obvious need for Park Services to have its own crew. In much the same way that repair crews, like for U.S. Steel, they have a Boilermaker crew. You get a Boilermaker, you get a welder, you get a burner. But we need a carpenter, we need a plumber.
HVAC.
We need a multi-craft.
Yes.
Right, that are dedicated primarily to Park Services.
Absolutely.
It would tremendously increase our efficiency and our ability to answer calls and emergencies.
It could potentially save us money.
And save us money, along with the development of a regular schedule for maintenance.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then I'm going to ask that we would slate an executive session for our next meeting. When is that?
December. December.
Yes, but when in December?
I think that's December 11th.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that we would schedule an executive session for 9 a.m. On December 11th.
Last thing I wanted to, the last meeting, Mr. Nowacki offered his services to assist with the, as you may know, Gateway Park's Statue of Liberty was damaged in a car accident. We were able to get the information of the person who caused the car accident, so that's working its way through the legal department. But Mr. Nowacki came and met with me for about half hour, 45 minutes, brought all his documentation from his past work on the project itself. And so we are working towards getting that remediated, obviously through the person who caused the damage. So I want to thank Mr. Nowacki for coming out and assisting with that.
But that's going through the legal department.
Yes.
Now, Under, let's talk about the new business for a minute. Let's talk about the soft opening that you brought up earlier.
Oh, okay.
Go right ahead.
So that was for Gleason, and I was just wondering if Don could put some things together for us on possibly doing a relaunch of Gleason once we get, everything in place for the spring, and, offer the memberships or whatever's necessary.
Yeah,
so we can try to get a return on investment for next year.
And one of the things that the board hit on, was discussing earlier, is the advertising. That helps me more than anything we can possibly do, because it gets the word out that we're improved again, that it's not in the condition that it was. And, if the radio program goes to Chicagoland area, that's a lot of our clientele, that come in the summertime in previous years, and they all think it's closed now. I mean, the majority of the people out there think the golf course is closed, because when they would drive out there and see 400 million gallons of water on the golf course, there wasn't a lot of hope that it was going to be saved. So that helps me a lot also.
We'll continue to talk more about that, and perhaps put a plan together based on how things unfold in early 2020. Public comment?
President?
Did
We didn't have
anyone
anybody
sign?
sign, no.
Okay.
Mr.
Nowak.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I was gratified to hear that the director is going to be implementing a plan to remove some of the dead trees that are really throughout the park due to the ash borer and other diseases that have affected trees not only in Gary but in other places. This would be something that parks would routinely engage in. When trees die, they cut them down. They don't generally wait until they become a hazard to the public, but I'm glad that at this point we are looking at the hundreds of trees throughout the park system that need to be removed. I would only bring to the board's attention that there are programs for replacing those trees as well. NERC annually announces the award of trees for the various communities in the area that they represent for free trees that are suited for planting in our locality. To my knowledge, we've never been a major recipient of those trees for whatever reason. I think we've had some, but this is an annual program, and I can only tell you that looking at the golf course, looking at Borman Park, looking at the old East Side Park, the Buffington Park, that the trees are in terrible shape. As the board may not be aware, trees do not live forever. They may live 100, 150, or 200 years, but many of these trees have been here since the city has been created, and they are now at the end of their life, which means not only ash borers and other diseases, but some of these trees, we're just going to lose them because they're ready to die, and we have to have a program to replace those trees, or otherwise all you've got is you don't have a park, you instead have a vacant lot. So I would commend the director for taking some initiative to remove the hundreds, maybe thousands of trees that have to be replaced throughout the city. But we have to have a comprehensive effort to replace those trees. It's like our plan for removing houses around the city. We just keep tearing them down, but very few get replaced, and the city looks more and more desolate for the loss of the standing Capitol. It's going to look more desolate for the lack of trees. There's an old saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but the second best time to plant a tree is today. So I'm going to urge the board to look at that, but not just Marquette Park, look at the entire city, because this entire city has parks that serve the public. Thank you.
Any concluding, oh, yes, come right ahead.
I thought I should check in with you about controlled burn season.
Just give us, state your name before you.
Okay. Sandy O'Brien, Eco Realm LLC, 5500 South Liverpool Road in Hobart is where I live, not far from Glen Park. So I want to thank you all for your careful stewardship and thoughtfulness on managing the park with minimum resources. I wanted to check in with you about controlled burns and say something for maybe new park board members, or give you a review of why we do them, because burn season's coming up if we have one anyway. Climate change is messing that up too, because we just, like last fall, it was moist all fall and nobody burned. It was terrible. But anyway, the controlled burns at Marquette Park have done wonders for ecological health, and also at Brunswick Park done wonders for their ecological health. You know, the native wildflowers are coming up in the middle of the natural areas, not just on the edges where they got a little sun from being like next to a parking lot or something. So they're looking much better. The tangles of the non-native bittersweet and all the non-native shrubs, those are getting much better. Every time we do a burn, I try to get out there and spray the re-sprouts so that they kind of finally get to be dead. And, you know, we're still dealing with the babies of all of Marquette Park's woodlands were totally basically trashed by the woody invasive species. And then that was cleaned out with the RDA grant. And then by the time I got hired, they had already kind of reflogged to a pretty good extent. So we're still kind of working on getting it back to the way it should be. But we're way, way ahead of the game. It's looking much better. And the controlled burns are actually very good for ticks too. I know when I first came to Marquette Park and I was running around getting garlic mustard out, so I do a lot of walking, and so I did a lot of tick collecting too. And I came home one time with 15 deer ticks on me. So now it's not nearly as bad. The fire actually, and there was a nice in-depth study that was just featured on the Stewardship Network webcast that talked about how successful regular controlled burns are. You know, you can't just do one controlled burn after 10 years of not having any and expect to see any results on ticks. But if you do regular, like every other year, you're good on ticks. It really has been working. And they have their natural areas that have been well burned, and the pine savannas is where the study was done. They could not hardly find a tick. At least, they couldn't really find a Lyme disease tick, but they don't have too many there. But their tick populations were very, the tick populations that carry the diseases, like Rocky Mountain spotted fever, the rickettsia diseases, they could hardly find them. And those ticks that they did find that could carry them had a lot less disease. So it was very good, and I expect that it's done wonders for Marquette Park too. So for public health reasons and ecological reasons, it's really good to do the controlled burns. Reduce the ticks, reduce the Lyme disease. There's so many people in all the Duneland communities, including Miller, that have gotten Lyme disease. And burning is relatively inexpensive. We use mostly volunteers. Thank God for the good Miller volunteers that put in those 7,000 hours. And this year the burning volunteers got honored too, because they made sure that they got in on the volunteer hour list. And you can work all year with a crew to make up for what you didn't do in burn season. So, and you don't even make it up. So, burning is the efficient thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any concluding comments or questions from board members?
I just have one.
Sure.
And that is, it did my family's heart good to participate in the trunk or treat. We had a wonderful time. I thought the turnout was phenomenal. And people kept asking us, who are we with? And we kept telling them, we're just citizens of the community. We wanted to come out and support. So you don't have to be with an organization to to want to volunteer and do things with the city. I want to just thank Nate and his crew and everyone for doing a phenomenal job with that. So I just wanted to give kudos to you guys for doing that.
Thank you. It took a lot of energy. I know Kamisha
Yes.
and Tashizia George from Commission for Women kind of spearheaded it. So they deserve a ton of the praise. But we also had other departments who came in and assisted. We recognized early on that we weren't going to be able to be outside. So we had already kind of planned to move it inside. But now you're right, though. Events like those are the reasons why you do what you do. You know, we're overworked, underpaid, most of us. But, you know, whenever you see people having a good time and, you know, thanking you for it, it always makes it worthwhile. So.
Did you have about 500 kids? Or
I don't
it was
know.
a lot.
It was a lot.
It was
a lot.
so many.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And I've been, Christine, I love your outfit. It was just too cute. Okay, a lot of families came out, so it's a lot of fun.
With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Meeting is adjourned.